most rewarding thing about working with David is helping him see the vision through. You know it's not going to be ordinary. You know it's going to be unusual, and it's going to rise above the other films because David's films have a particular point of view, and it's going to lift off the page in kind of a magical way, and we're just there to make that happen for him.
You know, he surrounds himself with people that are very particular, and it's not always true that when you're on a movie set, everybody's very, very happy to be there, where I had the sense that everybody on David's set was very, very happy to be there.
A director who knows as much as David does makes it easier for everyone else to do their job because there's no ambiguity.
You want me to shoot Sailor in the brains with a gun?
Yes.
I was always shocked at how logical what we were doing was, and at the same time, how freeing it was, because the world was so complete, and it was so particular and so detailed that you didn't feel the pressure to invent. Your real job was to put yourself in that world, and then once you were in that world, you took on the logic and the characteristics of that world he made.
Those are dummies. Dummy.
I always felt incredibly safe with him as a director, even though I was going to places that at times it was the last place I'd want to go. But I knew that I was safe with him, that he would rein me back in or help me keep it grounded or encourage me to go further.
He does create an environment where spontaneity is good for the actors, and I think that the actors really appreciate working with him.
Pigeons spread diseases, and must you see that? Yeah!
You just really had to suspend sometimes your need to know, or your need to put things in this box of reality, or what made sense or what didn't make sense. And he would say, because sometimes life doesn't make sense. And it's so true.
On Twin Peaks, when he told Richard Beamer to spit in the fireplace, and he told Dana Ashbrook to bark like a dog. And I remember Dana being really worried and thinking, what's going on here? And then when the scene, when he saw the scene later, it just worked beautifully.
David is very, very inventive, and I think that that's part of the thrill that he gets out of actually making the movie.
I remember we were shooting in a motel in Big Tuna when Nick and I are stuck there, and it's right before we meet Willem's character, and there was a light fixture that the prop department had brought in that was just not right to David. So David ran off and in about 10 minutes of waiting made a lamp. And you can see it in the shot. It's a very unusual and interesting lamp with this piece of wood, and it's just a lamp that you'd only see in kind of an awful motel in the middle of nowhere, Texas. It was just right on.
Every detail is important to David, and he's thought it through, and he's thought so much about it. He really made those things happen by design.
There was a couple of sets where, I think it was a bar set or something, and he wanted the door in a different place, so he basically just got a saw out, and he started, cutting this thing out for a door, and we had to basically stop production for 4 hours while he moved the door. And everybody's like, David, just let them come in the door where it is. It was like, no.
He is someone who embodies an unbelievable balance of meticulous preparation and very specific filmmaking.
He's involved with the sound, he's involved with the music, he's involved with the camera, he's involved with every possible aspect of the film. I always thought that's the way it should be.
Hey, my snakeskin jacket! Thanks, baby! Did I ever tell you that this here jacket represents a symbol of my individuality and my belief in personal freedom?
The great thing with David is that his stuff is not derivative of anything, because he doesn't really watch a lot of things. He doesn't read newspapers, he doesn't watch TV, he doesn't do any of that. So anything that David comes up with, he cooks up out of his own head.
It's been percolating in there for months and months and months. And then when we get to the set and actually shoot the shot and create that particular mood, it's just fine-tuning it now. It's just making it that little bit better, that little bit more powerful.
I feel like one of the the most profound things about David's work is that it does hit the subconscious in a very deep way. It's part of that creative force that comes through him.
The sense of what's going to happen, without words even, is really what David's so good at and what his films are very, very much about.
Some of my favorite moments in the movie are sort of the silent moments in bed, Sailor and Lula, alone and together, where both in the sweetness and in the darkness in the film, the story is revealed. David is really excited to take the time to tell a story in that way.
The interesting films are the ones you remember. The interesting ones are the ones that take you to another land, that put you in a different story, somebody else's shoes completely, and David manages to do that every time. You know, he just transports you away.
If I tried to ask David to explain any of these movies to me, I'm sure he would get livid. He's not interested in defining them for himself. So I think it's very amusing to him that other people are trying to define him, because I don't think he has an explanation for himself or his work, and it's just his creative process.
One of the things about David, and he's said it to me a million times, is you just don't do it middle of the road. Middle of the road, it falls through the cracks in the floors. You know, and he presses the outer limits all the time.
I mean, David is a true artist, not only as a filmmaker, but his drawings and his paintings and his furniture pieces and all that. I mean, he's one of a kind.